Investigating British trophies of Indian colonization. Why Tipu's tiger is unique among contested artifacts. In the beginning of the 18th century, British interests in India were pinioned on trade. Empire became an organic direction of their conquests. India, ruled by Mughal Empire, was beginning to fail under the impact of British colonization, although the East India Company found a great obstacle in the Mysore dynasty. Barua confirmed in his research that the Anglo-Mysore Wars went on for more than a quarter of a century. The Mysore sultans, Tipu and his father before him, Hyder Ali, had succeeded in thwarting the East India Company at every pass. The painting commemorating the War of 1780, the War of Palilur, was reported on the BBC News as it was up for auction in March of 2022. A sizable work of art measuring 32 feet has been aggressively truncated for the article. Notice how the BBC displayed this piece. It appears that the British are closing in and have defeated the Indian Sultanate, when in fact, this painting depicts the opposite. This painting champions the defeat of the British at the hands of Hyder Ali and his son, Tipu Sultan's army. One might appreciate the context in near full view. The War of Palilur, a painting commissioned by Tipu Sultan, shows the victory of the Mysore military extinguishing the East India Company. It is clear that the ruler of Mysore identified with the Bengal tiger. Joseph Sirmek's research explained Tipu's tiger aesthetic and inclination that was reflected throughout his palace, from the details of his throne to the tiger stripes on the Mysorean military uniform. Kate Brittlebank noted that the stylized stripes can be found in the standard military dress. The tiger motif was referred to as babri or babri. In the fourth siege of 30 years, Mysore finally succumbed to the British. In a violent battle, the East India Company had captured the capital of Mysore, Seringapatam, and the palace of Tipu Sultan. Shortly thereafter, the plundering began. In the final and devastating war that delivered Mysore into the hands of the crown, the British claimed it was simply impossible to render a body count, although they had no compunction in totaling the monetary value of Tipu Sultan's treasure, the largest sum of the British conquests. It is relevant to examine the curious colonizer lexicon of the word prize. Zico's research reflected that war booty was classified as prize rather than plunder, which was illegal according to British law at the time. So how much money did the individual soldier see? The prize money was solely dependent on rank and race. A British soldier of the East India Company was given a total of £7 4 shillings, whereas a native recruited by the East India Company received £5. With minimal payout of the treasure, soldiers needed little encouragement to pillage the capital of Seringapatam. In addition to their plundering and monetary compensation, a medal was minted to champion the hard-won victory over the Tiger of Mysore. The composition of the medal strategically positioned a dominating British lion over a vanquished tiger. The unimaginable chaos after the taking of Mysore Palace is best depicted in Sir David Wilkie's nocturne painting, entitled Sir David Baird Discovering the Body of Tipu Sahib. The British were sorting the dead by candlelight to be absolutely sure they had put an end to the reign of the Tiger of Mysore. In a formalist approach, there is a directionality of gestures, as well as weaponry, pointed to the conquered figure, bottom left. In an expected othering of Orientalism, the British constructed a formidable and barbaric image of Tipu Sultan. It should come as no surprise that Tipu Sultan's vast treasures revealed a profoundly intelligent connoisseur of history and objects of interest. Jasanoff validates the control of the British mindset through propaganda. Plays, pamphlets, cartoons, as well as the horrifying stories from prisoners of war framed Tipu Sultan as a villain destined to bring the fall of Christianity through his adherence to Islam. This ideology fostered a culture of civic duty. The British were thereby socially obligated to rid the world of this so-called tyrant. After the taking of Mysore, the death of Tipu Sultan, and the looting of the palace, they discovered a dissonance between Tipu the barbarian and Tipu the collector. Jasanoff maintains Tipu's throne to be the most valuable of all items stolen by the East India Company. This research, while exploring a small fraction of the United Kingdom's contested relics, will argue that Tipu's tiger is singular among the vast collection of looted artifacts. What gift could be more valued than that of a conquered foe's throne to your ruling monarch? This intricate, sizable, royal pedestal made its way into the hands of many East India Company employees before its myriad pieces arrived in London as a gift to the crown. The previous etching of Tipu's throne veils the delicate beauty of the intricate decor. As seen in the previous engraving, this finial of Tipu Sultan's throne is one of 8. November 16, 2021, the art newspaper reported its auction. When the British government discovered the buyer was outside the United Kingdom, an export ban was put into place. Known for encouraging British buyers for their looted artifacts, claiming the ironic guise of cultural interest, the UK's government was criticized by heritage commentators who assert the ornament was stolen in the late 18th century. This research failed to reflect anything other than the absolute confirmation that this is one of many, many misappropriated objects. Reported May 2023 on CNN, a London auction house stated the sword of Tipu Sultan went for 7 times its estimated price. The stolen artifact, said to be the ruler's weapon that was located in his bedchamber, was purchased for a record-breaking $17.4 million US. The British discovered a library that boasted over 2,000 tomes in various languages. Sims Williams, in an overview of the current British collection, stated that, unlike a dynastic library, Tipu Sultan's books had come from a variety of sources and had been newly acquired dating after the mid-18th century.
Only see how these hogs are allowed to contaminate my father's books.
Tipu Sultan's sons had been held hostage by the British. They watched helplessly as the East India Company ransacked their father's possessions. The prince's observation emphatically confirms the value of his father's cultivated interests. This concept was reinforced by George D. Bierce's research. As he stated, the library of Tipu Sultan was an extraordinary reflection of interest in scholarship and learning. Tipu Sultan's library housed over 44 Qurans. This one has been annotated by the Sultan himself. After the sacking of the palace, 85% of the library was lost. This particular Quran was presented to George III in 1807 by Charles Wilkins, librarian to the East India Company. Measuring approximately 2 inches diameter, this gold icosahedron known as Tipu's magic box is an enigma among the spoils of war. To this day, scholars have been unable to comprehend the purpose of Tipu's 20-sided box. One will note the tiger aesthetic detail in the babri of the ribbon and the gold tiger head of the mask. This war turban, Jasanoff reported, is likely the last helmet worn by Tipu Sultan. On the same night, Mona Khan suggests Tipu Sultan spoke the Tibetan proverb, "I would rather live a day as a tiger than a lifetime as a sheep," the day the British stormed the palace of Seringapatam on May 4, 1799. Jasanoff's assertion that Tipu's throne is the most valued contested object of the looted treasure demonstrates a myopic sentiment predicated on the capitalist scope of art. The multifaceted nature of Tipu's tiger deserves a closer examination. Phyllis G. Mann described Tipu's tiger, or the man-tiger organ, as the king of royal toys. After the sacking of the palace, this item of interest was initially overlooked. Lacking the elements of gold, jewels, weaponry, or scholarly pursuits of the other looted artifacts, Tipu's tiger was later discovered in the music room of the palace and shipped to England. Archer's text described a British soldier's measurement of a Bengal tiger as 4.5 feet high and 9 feet long. This mechanical sculpture is repeatedly referred to as just under life size. Guziko suggests a European origin carved from Indian jackwood. Scholars appear to agree on a Tipu Sultan design, yet they continue to argue in favor of French mechanics. This argument has validity as the Mysorean rulers established a beneficial alliance with France and employed French engineers at their palace. Tipu's tiger is unique as the unavoidable ferocity draws on the spectator. How rare to witness such mayhem in the design of a musical instrument. As the sound bellows from the organ, the soldier's hand extends above his head in futility as the large cat ensnares his victim. Chatterjee identifies the sound we hear emanating from Tipu's tiger as a mixture of satiated tiger growls and the keening of the British soldier. This contested object's function is responsible for something no other stolen artifact can claim to do. In the arresting sonic elements and mechanics suggested of death throes is the manifestation of social commentary from the colonized. The soundscape the audience experiences is the same shared by Tipu Sultan. The auditory element transports one back over 200 years ago, knowing the Sultan enjoyed the same musical notes. But before acquiescing to these claims, one must explore its current placement. Archer tells us that the public was once able to access the organ. Initially housed in the East India Company's Library of London, visitors would move the handle and hear the chilling high-pitched screams over the roaring tiger. In 1879, it was relocated to the Victoria and Albert Museum. What scholars continue to obscure is a devastating incident that likely and profoundly compromised the contested object. In a monograph for the Victoria and Albert Museum, Archer reveals that the artifact was severely damaged during World War II. A German bomb collapsed the roof of the museum, bringing down with it the main staircase. Buried beneath the rubble was Tipu's tiger. The semi-automaton organ was decimated in what was described as several hundred pieces. Published in 1800, this drawing of Tipu's tiger is the frontispiece of a text by Major General James Salmond, an officer of the East India Company. This image predates the damage of World War II. One is encouraged to inspect the fidelity in the current reconstructed piece. The repairs are said to have been executed within the time span of a single year. There is a startling lack of information regarding the reconstruction of the man-tiger organ. It begs the question if it was reassembled from the original pieces or if it was an entirely new build. Understanding the intimidating project of rebuilding such a piece, one must consider if the sound was impacted, as this was no mere organ. It was manufactured to replicate the disturbing harmony of a human scream and a tiger's roar. The first and most recent recording of Tipu's tiger is curiously absent of the tiger roar, with a focus on the British soldier's scream. The second clip from the BBC provides the missing element. The recording suggests that the sound had been roughly adjusted due to the impact of the bombing during the Second World War. But the presence of the tiger is felt in the final note. Currently on display in the Victoria and Albert Museum of London, the contested artifact is encased in glass. It should be examined how the British are failing to showcase this object. Delicate artifacts with sonic components benefit from a pre-recorded soundbite, accessed by way of a button near the display. Upon contacting the museum, an assistant curator confirmed that there is, in fact, no audio or visual material to supplement the display in the gallery. The multifaceted failures continue. Shaw's article, Whose Culture Is It Anyway?, addresses repatriation and cites the two most requested stolen artifacts by the Republic of India as the Koh-i-Noor diamond, the center of the British crown, a jewel measuring the size of an egg, and Tipu's tiger. In a comparison of the two vastly different contested objects, therein lies the confirmation of the value of the man-tiger organ. Nothing reveals the vestiges of the inveterate colonizer mentality like the vocabulary that emerges surrounding repatriation. The The former colonizer, see also museum, argues for the protection and preservation of the object. One need only cite the lost library of Tipu's Sultan or the damages incurred to Tipu's tiger during World War II to confront these unrealistic requirements. Shaw's article offers a solution to repatriation, suggesting that a museum housing the artifact should have it on loan until the country of origin can provide an establishment congruent with the museum's stipulations. This is hardly a solution. The formerly colonized country is still beholden to the demands of the colonizer. To simplify a convoluted issue, this presents as little more than a ridiculous hostage situation. The so-called solution exposes the impunity of the colonizer to this day, as they continue to benefit from a privileged power dynamic. Despite the complicated nature of repatriation, India and the United Kingdom can certainly agree on the importance of Tipu's tiger. Among the myriad stolen artifacts, it's impossible to ignore how much this musical instrument means to each culture. The man-tiger organ is encased in glass. The sonic and kinetic components of the piece have forever been put to rest. However, audio and visual recordings still exist, if only on the internet. Of the numerous contested treasures of Tipu Sultan's palace, none are able to elicit the same experience as a 200-year-old musical automaton reflecting an aggressive resistance to colonization.